I'm sure so many people feel like they know you personally.
I mean, I know that, and
They're
I mean,
invested
I
in
got my own
you.
neuroses. I got my own bullshit.
What's your own?
I mean, just that kind of thing, like
Yeah.
being, like like what seems like a humility that's sometimes just dumb, but also too with something like getting engaged. Um,
What would you say, looking back? What was one of the highlights, like the best times in your life? It could be personal, professional reasons, or both. Or
oh,
what do you feel like was a really good time?
mm, honestly, right now, I have a very, very happy personal life right now. I'm engaged to be married to somebody that I am very much in love with, and
Congratulations.
thank you. And
Is that new?
well, yeah, newish. I mean, we've been engaged. I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like kind of in my personal life, and I mean, how do I broach it? I keep thinking because I want to, just like write a tweet about
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
at the grocery store, or like my fiance has a 2.5-year-old daughter, and so I'm gonna be I have a two I have now have a two and a half
Yes.
year old daughter. Not thank you,
Congratulations, Dad.
not officially, but we're
Yeah.
working on it. And it's I there's times when I want to just make. I was with a 2.5-year-old in the drugstore, and then I realized I got to explain how I got a 2.5-year-old into the drugstore. So I keep thinking I should just like make a tweet like, oh yeah, by the way, I will be referring to a fiance from now on because I got engaged. But
So
I don't know.
that's right, because you haven't, I don't feel like I've heard you talk a lot about the fact that you're divorced now
Yeah,
and it's different, life is different, but you haven't mentioned that. So now it's like building up, I guess, for you internally, thinking,
yeah,
when do I
yeah.
say it? But
Because
is it
it's
that
like
big of a
because
deal?
it's
Who cares?
no, it's not that big of a deal. But it's just, but it feels like walking into a restaurant and yelling, "I'm engaged, everybody!" Like you're just presuming that everyone's. It's also all Midwestern humility bullshit. It's all
Well,
just
so
like
explain that.
not tooting your own horn if like kind of. It's a very and I mean, and it exists in lots of places. There was when I worked in New Zealand, they call it tall poppy syndrome, which if
I
you're
know what that
yeah,
is.
like if which for people that don't know, the
Mm-hmm.
poppies are all supposed to grow at one level, and if somebody grows up too high, you gotta chop off their head.
I have a problem with that.
Yeah,
I don't like that. Let the poppies grow in
yeah,
their
no,
own
I know,
space.
and the Kiwi version of it is anybody. They are excited for anybody from New Zealand that gets any kind of world fame, and then they can't wait to destroy them,
Mm.
to undercut them because oh, we're proud of you. Look who's too big for his britches, and that's a very Midwestern dynamic too. About like, oh, look at you, Mister Somebody, huh? It always feels like, wait, are you complimenting me or insulting me?
Yeah, I think it's an
And
insult.
we do that to our. I mean, I think I do that to myself. I'm like,
Ah.
oh, Mr. Big Shot thinks everyone cares.
But people do care because people care about you.
Yeah.
And so they like to, I'm sure so many people feel like they know you
I
personally.
mean, I know that, and
They're
I mean,
invested
I
in
got my own
you.
neuroses. I got my own bullshit.
What's your own?
I mean, just that kind of thing, like
Yeah.
being, like like what seems like a humility that's sometimes just dumb and not realistic, and like, yeah, okay, but also too with something like getting engaged. um it's corny and it's a cliche, but like I do want to protect my personal life,
Yeah.
and I don't want to serve it up as content. um and
How does she feel about it?
she's well, we haven't, she's said things like, you haven't mentioned me. You haven't mentioned me on Twitter, but she's usually say, well, she's saying it in a teasing way because we've had real conversations where I'll say, I don't really think you want me to trot you out in front of my Twitter users. Like, they're not all,
And all nice.
yeah,
And
they're not all nice and supportive. So, you know, I'm, I'll crow about you to anyone within earshot, but I'll probably keep you under my hat a little bit more out in the world. And there again, that it feels grandiose to even say that because it's again, but it's just a fact.
yeah, because the fact is,
If
you
you
have
put
millions.
something out in the world,
Yeah.
somebody will turn it shitty. If you put things like personal things, and it's funny. I mean, I hear it on the Stern Show all the time. Somebody will just make a fairly human admission of something, some little foible or some little frailty, and then it's just off to the races. And it's not even so much the people on the show; it's like fans just, you know, like that's the guy that pooped his pants. Where it's like, I thought I thought we were all sharing here. So I
But
mean,
you know
and
what it
that
reminds
happens.
me of?
That happens on the internet like crazy.
Right.
Where, you know,
But those are the people also that you're hearing that from. Whereas for every person who's
I know.
doing that, there are a bazillion more people who
I
are
know.
not and who are like happy for you, whose
I know.
hearts are blowing up.
And I listen again. There again, that's kind of part
Yeah.
of the crazy of what I do for a living. It's standing in front of an audience of 1,000 faces and 999 are laughing, and one sourpuss is right there, and they're the only person you can see.
Yeah.
And that's like a metaphor for a neuroses that I have in me that I've been fighting for so many years. Like, you know, look at the big picture.
Yeah.
Don't get weighed down in the negatives because, you know, focusing on negatives, especially when you're young, can be a good way of making progress. Because you know, it's like this part of the room is neat and clean. Why would I worry about that part of the room? I'm going to worry about the part of the room that's not neat and clean. And as a result, you only see yourself as sloppy and a mess. You don't see the clean part of you. You don't see the organized part of you. And so you got to, you know, you have to eventually shift that mechanism
It's
to where
that's a process.
yeah, to where it's not just where you're not just seeing your life as all of the shortcomings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you feel like you really hear genuinely the positives? Maybe not as much as or not as powerfully as, but do you sometimes say, wow, like I can't believe how no, because you're never gonna now I'm like setting you up for the problem that you have of trying to like you know.
Oh no, I'm very proud. I'm very proud, and I'm very I can, and I mean in a way that I am completely fine with, and that I think I'm completely, and that is completely healthy. Is I can be very proud of myself for
Okay.
what I've done.
Good.
Because I have, and not just what I happened to be around while it happened. You know, like definitely things that I had input in that turned into good things that really matter to other people. You know, there's for me, there's always like a level of, you know, depending on from project to project, when somebody says, I really love that show, I'll say thank you, but there's two kinds of thank you. One is, well, thank you, but I don't really have that much to do with it. And two is, well, thank you very much because I poured a bunch of sweat into that show, and a lot of how that show is based on my input. So thank you. You know, like if you thank the waiter for how the food tastes,
Right.
it's like the waiter thank the kitchen. You
Yes.
know. So, I forget what I forget.
Okay, well, I'm gonna circle back to the fact that you haven't really announced that you're engaged. But
Yeah.
so I do think that probably it starts to blow up in your head of like, well, how am I going to do this? But you know that at some point you're going to.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to happen. I'm actually really